All right, so I am currently on my way to the gym, and I figured that this would be a very appropriate time to talk about the differences that I've noticed between Dutch gyms and American gyms. Now, full disclosure, I am a certified gym rat. I am an absolute gym rat. Through the past 4 or 5 years, my life has taken many twists and turns, a lot of those unexpected, from living in my car to moving overseas. At one point I had to move back in with my parents after living in a luxury apartment. I have been through a lot of different stages and chapters in my life throughout these past few years, but the one thing that has remained constant, other than my girlfriend, has been the gym. And so whenever I touched down here in the Netherlands, one of the very first things that I did was I enrolled in a gym. I enrolled in a Basic Fit, which is essentially the generic gym chain here in the Netherlands. So in my time here in the Netherlands, I have gradually begun going to the gym more and more, and now it is at a point where I am going 7 days a week. 7 days every single week I am at the gym, be it to lift weights or to do cardio. But if you're a newer subscriber of mine, you probably didn't know that about me, that I am an absolute gym rat. That said, Dutch gyms and American gyms are similar, but they're also very different from one another. And what I mean by that is, of course, functionally, they are the same thing. And by the way, if I'm not looking directly into the camera, it's because this light is extremely bright and I can't look at it for too long. But Dutch gyms and American gyms are functionally the same, where people are going there to get in better shape. However, the way in which they go about that, at least from my own observations, tends to be very, very different. Now, the first difference that I've noticed between Dutch gyms and American gyms is the towel culture. Now, what do I mean by that? This might vary from gym to gym, or maybe even amongst different American cities, this might be different. But at the gyms that I've personally been to back home, it wasn't really common to see people bring their own towels to the gym to put on the equipment before they use them. That's something that I never really saw prior to coming to the Netherlands. And I don't know if that's just a Dutch thing, or if that's a European thing, or maybe every other place in the world does that, with the exception of America, or at least with the exception of the gyms that I've been to in America. But back home, it wasn't really common for people to bring their own towels and put the towel down on the bench press, for example, prior to lifting the weight. Now, obviously, people do this for hygienic reasons. People do this so that they can avoid touching other people's sweat. But for me personally, and I'm not saying that they're wrong for this, but for me personally, I know I'm gonna shower right after I work out anyway, so I don't really care. But here, clearly, a lot of people do care, because quite a few people do bring their own towels. And I think actually it is a rule within the Basic Fit guidelines that you're supposed to bring your own towel. I don't do that. I only bring a towel to shower with, not to actually put on the equipment. I'm gonna shower right after my workout anyway, so it doesn't matter. But just an observation that I've made. The next observation that I've made when it comes to Dutch gym culture in comparison to American gym culture is that here it seems as if there are far fewer bodybuilders. And this is something that I noticed not just in the gym, but on the streets. As I walk around and make these videos, as I go about my day-to-day life, I see very few people with physiques that make me do a genuine double take, that make me think to myself, wow, I need to get my stuff together. Now, mind you, I would say that I have a relatively good physique. I mean, again, I'm in the gym 7 days a week. I would hope I'd have a pretty good physique. But back home, especially in Texas, some of the people that you will see out there, teenagers even, I'm talking about 14, 15, 16-year-olds, put me to shame. Okay, you have teenagers who will put me to shame. And again, I'm in the gym 7 days a week. You have teenagers who are bench pressing 100 kilograms for reps. Okay, we're not talking about a 1 rep maximum, we're talking about for reps. And their physique shows it. All right, these aren't just those inflatable muscles that don't actually lift any significant weight. No, we're talking about real strength and real muscle. And I actually have a theory as to why this is. My theory for why there aren't as many bodybuilders in the Netherlands and Spain, Switzerland, and Belgium, those are the other European countries I've been to. My theory for this is that the most popular sport here and in those other countries that I just mentioned is football, or as we like to call it, soccer. And if you look at most of the best soccer players, they're not very muscle-bound people. And generally, children, especially young men, look up to professional athletes. Those are their heroes. In America, the most popular sport amongst young men is American football. American football is a contact sport which requires you, by extension, to be relatively strong and muscular. If not super fast, you at least have to be strong enough and muscular enough to withstand a hit from another grown man or another person that's somewhat in the ballpark of your size, running full speed at you. Running full speed in the opposite direction. You're basically getting into a head-on collision every single play. In soccer, of course, it is somewhat of a contact sport, but not in the same way that American football is. And so I'd imagine that if American football, or let's say rugby, by the way, if I sound like I'm out of breath, it's because this bag is really, really heavy. I have all my gym stuff in here. I usually never walk to the gym, I always bike, but that's besides the point. I'd imagine that if a contact sport, a true contact sport, was the most popular and prevalent sport here in the Netherlands, then a lot of the Dutch men, a lot of young Dutch men, teenage boys, adolescents, would be a lot more muscular and a lot stronger, but that's just not the culture here. Not saying it's a bad thing, but it's definitely different. Here at the gym that I go to, and look, I don't like to be arrogant about my abilities physically, but I would say I'm one of the stronger people there. Not one of the strongest, but definitely one of the stronger people. Whereas back home, I never, literally never had that feeling. Again, there were teenagers who would put me, a man in his 20s, to absolute shame. So definitely far fewer bodybuilder types here, people who are just actively trying to get as muscular as possible, because again, it's just not very practical for the most popular sport here, which is soccer, or football as the Dutch call it. Now, in addition to that, aside from the fact that people here tend to be less muscle bound, I've also noticed that people here by and large tend to not show off their muscles nearly as much. So in the gym, and you'll see this later if you see other people in the background, because I'm going to showcase a little bit of my workout, you'll notice that people tend to wear t-shirts, pants, or just generally less revealing clothing. And I think part of this is because they're just less muscular, so there's not really much to show off. They're just lifting for general fitness and wellness. But at the same time, even before I myself started to put on more muscle mass, I was definitely wearing tank tops. Hold on, I cannot see right now, this light is blinding me. But I was definitely wearing tank tops, I was wearing short sleeves, I was always wearing revealing clothing to the gym, because that's just the norm where I come from. Here, I've noticed that is definitely not the norm. I think part of that might also be because of the weather. It's much colder here than it was back home. But then summer came around, it got a lot warmer, and even in the gym that I go to, where the AC isn't very strong at all, okay, it was a grueling experience, people still were opting for the t-shirts and the less revealing clothing. And I think that this has more to do with the Dutch mindset regarding humility. People here just don't like to show off in general, be it their wealth, their health, or really anything else. Dutch people are very humble and they just don't like to show off. Of course, there are some people here who are the bodybuilding types who do wear the tank tops, things of that nature. It's not like the gym that I go to is a Planet Fitness type of gym that literally frowns upon bodybuilding, but it's definitely a different vibe than the gyms that I used to go to back home, where again, you have teenagers who are repping out 100 kilograms on the bench press and literally putting me, a consistent gym goer for years on end, to absolute shame. So much less revealing clothing. But on the flip side of that, the next thing that I've noticed, this is in direct contradiction to what I just said about the less revealing clothing. The next thing I've noticed about Dutch gyms is the prevalence of nudity in the locker rooms. Dutch men, I've never been in a women's locker room, so I can't comment on that. Based on what my girlfriend told me though, this is also the case with women, but Dutch men, especially the older generation, seem to be very comfortable with being naked in the locker room. Now, that's not to say that men back home never did that, but mind you, there was a point in time when I was living in my car and I relied upon the gym for all of my hygienic needs. I was in the gym locker room 2 times a day, 7 days a week for 3 months. And in that time, I maybe saw 3 or 4 people in total get completely naked in the locker room. And of course, I'm not just consciously looking for it. I try to turn away. Sometimes you don't turn away quick enough. You hate to see it, literally. But here, I would say it's at least a bi-weekly occurrence that I see somebody get completely naked in the locker room. And you know what? There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I applaud them. Will never be me. I myself will never do that. You can call me insecure, you can call me whatever you want. I'm never gonna do that. But I do admire the fact that here, it seems as if nudity is much less taboo than it was back home. Though I also think it might be more of a generational thing than it is a cultural thing, because I've never seen a young person do it. It's always, like I said, older men. Even back home, it was always older men or people who were probably in the military or something like that, who were just completely comfortable with that sort of condition, just being naked in front of a bunch of other men. Again, nothing wrong with that. It's just not something that I myself opt for. Definitely find that to be very interesting. Now, the next thing that I've noticed about Dutch gyms, and this one kind of hurts right here. This one kind of hurts, especially, like I said, in the summer, when you're in a gym where the AC is not particularly strong. The next thing I've noticed about Dutch gyms is the lack of water fountains. This could just be the gym that I go to. It might just be basic fit. But at the gym that I go to, there are no free water fountains. As a matter of fact, come to think of it, I don't know if I've ever seen a free water fountain here like I used to see back home. Back home, it's probably legally required for gyms to have free water fountains, but here they have water in the vending machines, and then they also have this other sports water fountain that you can pay for. But most people, they just get their water from the tap. And while I do trust Dutch tap water, I tend to be very distrustful of drinking tap water from public places. So basically, for me personally, I just show up to the gym with this. Once this is empty, then I'm just gonna be thirsty. That's just what it's gonna be at that point, and I just make do with that. But there are no water fountains, which, again, never went to a gym back home. Let me get across the street before I get hit. Never been to a gym back home where that was the case. And as a matter of fact, let me walk on the opposite side of the bike lane, because I was told in one of my recent videos, somebody commented that it is customary to walk on the opposite side of the bike lane so that you can see oncoming traffic. So whoever told me that, thank you. But in addition to the water fountains, the next thing that differentiates Dutch gyms from American gyms is the abundance of bike parking. Now this right here might be one of my favorite things. This might be one of my favorite things simply because I love biking to the gym, because it serves as a very efficient and effective warm-up, especially on leg days. You don't want to go in the gym and just jump into a heavy set of squats or RDLs or leg extensions, hamstring curls, anything of that nature. I just gave you free game on what my leg workout is. You don't want to walk in the gym doing all of that if you're not properly warmed up, because what's going to happen is you are going to injure yourself. You're going to get a herniated disc. You're going to end up in physical therapy for the better part of 2.5 to 3 years, just like me. Okay, I'm speaking from experience. Even if you're young, this can happen to you. If you've been following my channel for long enough, you know about this. You know my story with that. But back home, I couldn't really bike to the gym because there was nowhere to park the bike. Okay, there was nowhere to park the bike at all. And if there's nowhere to park the bike, you're basically forced to chain your bike up to a pole. But even then, sometimes bikes aren't even allowed in that complex that the gym is located in. So yeah, you literally cannot ride your bike to the gym. But here, I would say, at least at the gym that I go to, it's probably about a 50-50 distribution between people who ride their bikes to the gym and people who drive or walk. But I definitely much prefer to ride my bike to the gym than to drive. It also serves as a really good cool down after a leg day. Okay, you don't want to finish your leg day and then just sit down for the rest of the day. You want to cool down, allow your body to sort of adapt and just generally cool down. I mean, I don't know all of the science behind it. I just know that it's a good thing to do. I'm not a personal trainer. I just like to lift weights. Speaking of which, I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit of my workout so that you can see how I went from this physique to this physique. If you want more fitness content, then definitely let me know and I will happily oblige. I can come to the gym late at night and just get these videos out because, like I said, I am here literally 7 times a week, every single day without fail. But I'm just about here, just walking in this parking lot, looking crazy, talking to this camera. So I'm gonna go ahead and walk in the gym. Oh, also another thing, I didn't mention this. I figured this would be pretty obvious, but it hit me when I first went into the gym here in the Netherlands. When I walked in the gym for the first time, I realized that Europeans don't use pounds, they use kilograms. And so you actually have to sit there and convert the weight, but the weight doesn't convert evenly. So for example, if you put a plate on the bar and you bench press that, a plate on each side of the bar, you bench press that, that's around 60 kilograms, whereas back home that would be 135 pounds. But 60 kilograms doesn't equate to 135 pounds. It's a little bit less, I think. So that's something that I definitely had to adjust to, especially if you're on a progression routine. Then you're gonna have to keep that in mind. If you're gonna move to Europe, then it might throw your progression routine off a little bit, or vice versa if you're going to America and you're gonna enroll in a gym there. But I'm at the gym, so now I'm going to go ahead and showcase some of my workout.